Annual economic testimony to the House Financial Services Committee. And here now, first on CNBC with the preview, Congressman Jeb Hensarling, a member of the Finance and Budget Committees, as well as the Congressional Oversight Panel. Congressman, good to have you back.
No, thanks for inviting me again.
Chairman sort of stole his own thunder in a way by putting this op-ed in the Journal and sort of lays out what he would do when it came time to start taking money out of the system, but no clue as to when or if, I guess, that might happen. Your reaction to that, what are you going to ask?
Well, number one, I'm not sure, as the editorial title bears, I'm not really sure I saw an exit strategy there. Maybe I saw a bunch of tools in the toolbox that he could use at some time. But, you know, I was disappointed to see that, you know, the Fed chairman believes that we will have an accommodative monetary policy for quite some time to come. I think we will hear obviously more about his comments at the hearing later today, which will expand on his op-ed. I think he'll also speak about the minutes that we now have public from the Federal Open Markets Committee of last month, where they're actually predicting, as you well know, really 9 to 10% unemployment, not only for this year, but for next year as well, which clearly doesn't speak well to the president's economic plan. I think it shows that, once again, it's been an abject failure.
So you think the 9% unemployment is a reflection entirely of President Obama?
Well, I wouldn't say entirely, but we did have the president say that if we would simply put our nation in debt, $1.1 trillion for the stimulus program, that jobs would be created. And since he's come to office, instead we've lost 2.6 million jobs and have the highest unemployment rate in 25 years. I mean, you cannot bail out, borrow, and spend your way into prosperity. And I think that the Fed's comments clearly evidence that policy, what's happening.
So you don't think that the president's spending has ameliorated the jobless situation, but you think the Fed...
Well, I think it's clear.
Right, I'm trying to repeat your point of view, but you believe that the Fed should not be as accommodative as it is right now? Those seem to be in conflict.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that I'm disappointed that the Fed clearly believes that we will be really, I guess, in the economic doldrums for quite some time. I think there is obviously concern about the size of the Fed's balance sheet, and they don't see any winding down of that position for quite some time. I mean, I guess the exit strategy is not going to come in a matter of months, but in years, according to the Federal Reserve. And so what I'm saying is I'm disappointed that their opinion is that we're going to really, to some extent, have to deal with this for years to come. I mean, clearly, I think there's a better policy to be had, and that is to get more capital in the hands of small business, of entrepreneurial capitalism. I think we could, for example, cut the employer match on Social Security and in Medicare in the short term. We could cut the capital gains tax rate. A number of things we could do to help stimulate the economy, but bail out, borrow, and spend isn't getting the job done.
Healthcare really is almost it's almost the number one topic, even as the chairman makes his way to the Hill. It looks like the president's under some pressure here. We're beginning to hear about deals getting cut. Any idea how that might happen?
Well, I mean, it's been going on since the dawn of the Republic.
Yes.
For lack of a better term, people do get bought off in this process. I don't mean that in a legal context.
Right, but in the context of this particular policy proposal, which is huge.
Well, it is huge, and you know, you say it's the number one issue in Washington. The number one issue in Washington ought to be, how do we get jobs created? And I don't think spending an extra $1 trillion on a new entitlement in health care is the way to get it done. I mean, clearly we've got problems in our health care system. Clearly the policy we have today is unsustainable over the long term, but the number one priority today ought to be job recovery, economic recovery. Even the Congressional Budget Office, appointed by Democrats, said, you know what, it's $1 trillion program, and that's just table stakes. That's just to get the whole thing started. I mean, people need the health care they need when they need it, but this whole new $1 trillion entitlement that the president wants to give to essentially ration health care is going to hurt jobs, not help job creation in America. So again, I hope that my colleagues will keep focused on what should be the number one issue, and that is economic recovery, job preservation, job growth.
So you think health care reform ought to be off the table completely?
No, I didn't say.
Or is there a compromise to be had? Is the White House,
Well, I would hope that a compromise to be had. Again, something needs to be done. I mean, the system we have is unsustainable. People can't afford health care that they have today. Increasingly, it's not affordable. Increasingly, it's not portable. But again, to create an entire new entitlement and thrust yet another $1 trillion of debt on top of the debt that we already have. We have the first $1 trillion deficit we've had in our nation's history. We're looking at more debt in the next 10 years than in the previous 220.
So does it feel to you like Blue Dogs are you talking to them? Are they saying things like, we can envision a package in which a public option is not on the table?
Well, I mean, we're seeing, I guess, more backbone from the Blue Dogs, the so-called fiscally conservative Democrats, and they are in short supply in the nation's capital. I hope that they're effective, but, you know, we've heard similar protestations through the national energy tax debate, and yet we got cap and trade in the House anyway.
Just barely, though.
Well, you know, there might have been votes in reserve. You guys have been around long enough to know how this system works. So, you know, again, I have high hopes. I have low expectations. But, you know, I think that they're put between kind of a Nancy Pelosi rock and a constituent hard place. And their constituents are saying, whoa, wait a second. I mean, how much debt are we going to have? And as bad as the system is today, do I really want a government bureaucrat telling me what doctor I can have and when I can get the health care that I want under their approval? And so I think the Blue Dogs are hearing from their constituents, and I hope that they'll stick to their principles.
Well, we'll be watching that August recess, as you well know, not far away at this point, Congressman. It's great to talk to you. Thanks for coming in advance of the chairman's speech and testimony. Congressman Jeb Hensarling joining us there. And, of course, the chairman does begin speaking 10 a.m. Eastern Time. CNBC will cover that live. You can catch it all right here on CNBC. And, of course, tomorrow he talks to the other side of the Hill. When we come back this morning, former Fed Governor Rick Mishkin in the House